Welcome everyone. This is ACDC, Araceli and Colette, the Dynamic Change. And my name is Araceli. I'm a transition wealth advisor, and I help single professional women rearrange their finances so they can pay their debt quicker and retire faster. And I'm here with my partner, Colette. Colette, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Colette Raba, and I am a residential real estate broker, and I work in the GTA West. That's my favorite area. So anywhere from Toronto, Etobicoke, all the way west, all the way to Hamilton even. I know it's a big number, it's a big space, but you know what? My clients, I love them. I'll go anywhere with them, well, almost anywhere. So today we have a great guest on. I'm so excited to have her. Her name is Samantha Glass. And Samantha, do you want to tell us about yourself? Oh, I can't talk today. Yeah.
It's okay. So Samantha's it's a paralegal, and she's gonna talk to us a little bit about what is happening between the relationship with landlords and tenants during COVID. Samantha, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Thank you both for having me on your show. I've been watching you guys. I feel like you guys are celebrities, and I need your autograph like now before you become too big and I can't get your autograph. So thank you for having me here. I'm very, very lucky to be on the show. Samantha Glass. I am a litigation paralegal with my own company, SFG Paralegal Services, LLP. I run a firm of paralegals that operates in various areas of law, and I happen to do landlord and tenant, and I'm a real estate investor. My family comes from a background of property management and investment, and so I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. I've seen it all, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about today.
Well, you're the celebrity here. Oh my gosh, like we're so honored to have you.
Yeah.
Like it's really so the relationship between me and Samantha, whenever I have any questions, she's on my team. I call my team of professionals that Araceli's on my team if I need any financial information. Just Samantha, anything that I need from her, if I have a question about landlord tenant and writing a lease, even if I have any questions, if I have any worries, if I want to make sure it's ironclad, something in a lease, she's my phone call. She's the person that I contact immediately. So I have questions all the time. People ask me tenant and landlord questions all the time. If I don't have the answers, who am I going to call? Samantha Glass. No, yeah. Not Ghostbusters. Not Ghostbusters.
And remember, if you are a real estate investor, you definitely have to have a paralegal on your team, especially Samantha, that she specializes in the landlord and tenant law. So
yeah.
So Samantha, tell us a little bit about what is happening during this time. And
you can scare us. It's okay.
We know not to. I'm like, what do I say that's positive today? Yeah. So I'll definitely tell you guys what's going on. So as we all know, as of March, the courts, the tribunals shut down. And we're now in October. I had to look. Can you imagine? That's how messed up I am with the time. I couldn't remember what month I'm in, but we're in October. Yeah. The board has opened up, but we're still at a place where things are super slow and landlords are struggling. So before COVID, let me just paint the picture for you. Before COVID, the Landlord and Tenant Board was extremely behind on issuing orders or even getting a hearing day. So I had landlords that literally were sitting. I have an example. A landlord received an order for non-payment of rent. She sat for 6 months waiting for that order. She had the hearing, but she was waiting for the order. So she actually could not evict. No order.
Right. So somebody's sitting in her apartment or her basement apartment or condo or house or whatever it is for 6 months, and there's nothing you can do.
Exactly. There was nothing she could do. So we had to go through the process of making a complaint to the Social Justice Tribunal. And then from there, we had to wait another 30 days and then go to the Ombudsman, who then took care of it and got us a result. But can you imagine waiting for 6 months when the board was normal? That was the normal behavior at that time.
Right.
And the reason behind why that was happening was because of the lack of adjudicators. So adjudicators are appointed. You can call them, some people call them judges. Yeah. They're called adjudicators, and they're appointed, and they just didn't have enough.
Right.
That was the issue before.
Issues for years and years. This has been going on for so long, and it's not something like. So actually, we were just talking about somebody else that we know, and you know, this is how information passes sometimes, because we always talk about, yes, there's Google, yes, there's information. You write a great blog, but you have to find the information somehow through the internet. And how do you know if that's accurate information too? So I always find, you know, the best information is when somebody speaks to me face to face. If I don't have the answer, you know, I can call somebody like you. I even have lawyers call me and say, what does this mean? Or, you know, what do you think about this? And I'm like, wait a second, like, this is crazy. I'm not the right person to be asking. Right? So that's the funny thing about information, and knowing who you're asking and who's giving you the right information. And you, I know, Samantha, you can back it up, and you always say, look up this legislation or look up this paragraph in, you know, the Landlord Tenant Act. It's not called the Landlord Tenant Act, right?
Residential Tenancies Act, but that's okay.
Right. They always
whatever you refer to it as, that's okay.
Right. If you Google it, it'll come up. Anyway, so because I know it changed, it has changed. I don't know how long ago, but you know, things like that where you really need the right information. And the answer to this person where she was saying, you know, she has someone she knows, and she has a basement apartment tenant who is complaining because of X, Y, and Z, and what do I do? And these are the things where you have to ask the expert, somebody like Samantha, to say, okay, you know, that person is willing to leave. What do you do? Do you give them the proper forms, or do you just say, absolutely go? Because I don't want to have that tenant sit in my apartment for 3 or 6 months.
Yeah. It'll be
How is it now?
How is it now? It's the same.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, we waited all during COVID. There was no hearings. And all of a sudden they started doing only emergency hearings. Okay. And it's so funny because I opened my email and there was like a surge of emails from the Landlord and Tenant Board. Hearing. I'm like, oh my, like what? But the funny thing is there's some that are still not in there. Like I have one with a squatter. Person's been
see, that's the thing. What's urgent? What is
exactly?
Well, no, it's not urgent anymore. Now they're opening it up to everything.
Okay.
So everything's coming. It's just a matter of when are they looking. So right now it looks like the board is looking at before COVID, when they kind of fell off the map, or they had a hearing during COVID. Okay. So they're scheduling those. But ones that are not, like, I don't know, the squatter issue, like this is a big one. Like this person is literally sitting in there, not a tenant, not paying rent. We can't accept rent from them because then they become the tenant.
Right.
So we're in a situation there. So it's not pretty. And everyone's frustrated. And you know, you mentioned a good point about Google, right? And asking people, please, I'm begging people, because I'm on other shows and I say this every time. Yeah. Please. Google is high level information. You must ask a professional about your particular situation. Yes. Because there's no other way.
And it's very
specific. Get the wrong information.
Every issue, every question is very, very specific, based on lots of different things, not just the person, but not just the municipality, the lease, you know, the clauses in the lease, when it was, like timing, like there's so many different nuances per issue. You know, this is the thing that one thing might change, the answer might be completely different. So you can't take it.
Remember, Colette, what I say in the show as well, that now we're going in a different direction, Samantha. We have too much information and it's all general, and it might not be the right combination of information. So it's best that you speak to a professional about your personal situation, because things change, forms might be different, everything would be completely different. So please, Reese, I really beg you, try to speak to someone instead of trying to figure it out yourself with Google. It's just not, it might give you a little bit of information.
Facebook, oh my gosh, yeah.
You guys are right. Can you imagine, let me just put this out there for your viewers as well. Imagine you go by the information on Google or Facebook and you fill out the forms completely, right? And you submit the forms in, and then you get this notice back from the board, or a letter back from the board. Sorry, your forms are all have errors. Too bad. We're kicking it out. We have to start again. You've just waited from March until October, and you've got no result. Yeah. So why waste your time potentially making a mistake if you don't know how to do it? Right. Get someone just to do it for you, even if it's just a limited scope retainer with that person to fill out the form.
Well, think about how much rent is these days too. So even to say, okay, if I'm losing $2,000 a month, and then to not see the value of hiring a professional to do all this paperwork to get your tenant out so you can still collect that $2,000 and possibly take them to court and get your money that's due for back rent. That's what I was going to ask you too. Like, what are you hearing from your landlords about, you know, people saying, oh, I can't afford my rent because I'm not working?
Well, there's the new change in legislation that came out during COVID, and people that are in arrears, tenants that are in arrears, they don't automatically get an eviction. So if a landlord applies for eviction, they will not automatically. Before in past, you could apply and you would get the eviction. Now, a landlord must offer a payment plan.
Right.
And if they offer the payment plan and the tenant declines, then the board is more likely to grant an eviction.
Right.
So this is the problem. People say they can't afford rent. Well, yeah. I'm sorry, your obligation as a tenant is to pay your rent no matter what.
That's
if
right.
If there's maintenance issues, you have to pay your rent,
right.
or else you're going to get kicked out. And
right.
look, we're in this. Everyone knows we're going back to stage 2 because of COVID.
Right.
Do you really want to try to move during stage 2? Everyone is scrambling to get apartments. People are right. scrambling to sell. People are scrambling right. to buy.
Yeah, yeah.
Why would you put yourself in that situation? So as a tenant, communicate.
Yeah. Well, what about tenants who have been paying the rent but not their complete rent? So let's say the rent is $2,000 a month and they've only been paying for the last, let's say, 6 months, $1,500. Mm-hmm. So to say I'm offering a deferral payment as a landlord to the tenants, they have to realize that that money still has to get to the landlord.
Yeah, no. Don't call them deferral. Don't do deferral payments.
No, I know, but this is as a landlord. Let's just say from the landlord perspective, if you want to help your tenants out to say, listen, you know, your rent is $2,000 a month. How can I help you? Do you need help? What's the story? And then, because let's say they've been a very good tenant up to that point, and you do want to be, you know, a nice person. So how does that look? What can landlords do without putting themselves in a predicament?
Right. So don't defer rent. So maybe that's the wrong terminology. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I would never defer any rent. What I would do is that if the tenant is in arrears, they pay what they're going to pay, and you need to enter into some sort of written payment agreement. So there's you have to do that. Put it in writing. Yeah. And because if you try to reduce it, like if you say, okay, I'm going to defer it or I'm going to lower it, they're going to say, well, that's my rent now.
They're
going to try to argue that. So we don't want them to argue anything. Simply put it in writing. Your rent is X amount of dollars. You paid me this amount. I'm still issuing you the proper notices for non-payment. Yeah. However, we're going to enter into a repayment agreement. Yeah. Make sure you do this correctly. Like I'm talking high level. Talk to someone how to do this correctly.
Oh yeah, but this is okay. So now let's just play this game that the landlord already, you know, let's say it's been whatever, a few months, and they've been accepting, you know, $1,500 instead of $2,000. There's no written agreement for anything to be paid back. And let's say then the tenant says, you know what, I'm going to move out. Here's my 60 days notice, and they move out. What happens?
Better issue a non-payment of rent. We better issue the proper notice, because look, how do you collect off somebody that's not, they're not there?
Well, and the other thing too is once they move out too, this is another question that I get from my landlords. How do I find that tenant? That tenant has moved out. They don't have a forwarding address. Now what do I do?
Okay, so from the collection side, there is a whole process that could be like a whole another show, but there is a process that we do, because we have a collection arm to our firm. Okay. So yes, definitely we can find people, and we can eventually enforce these orders against the tenants.
Right.
But you know, the goal really is for people. I would say the goal is that if they're not paying rent, and look, I'm on the landlord side. People get mad at me because they like, oh, you chose a side. Well, look, I'm a landlord, so I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I have represented tenants when I believe that they need the help, but most of the time I represent landlords. So
because the law really gives the benefit of the doubt to the tenant. Like, it's very skewed to the tenant. Araceli has property in the US, and she does not have to go through this craziness.
Oh gosh, no, that is that I really like about the US. Within 3 months, with the proper paperwork, I can get the sheriff to get somebody out. Luckily, I've never had to go through that, but if I do have to, it's a lot easier. Things are speedier to process. However, you always want to negotiate first before you go through the legal process, because the legal process, no matter how speedy it is always costly and it takes a lot longer. So obviously dealing with people, you got to be able to negotiate with them before doing anything. Yeah, negotiating payments probably would be better. I agree with her. And absolutely, I love that you are in this side of the landlords, because I'm a landlord, and that, we always get kind of like the short end of the stick in this case. If, between tenants and landlords, always the tenant will win.
Yeah. So let me just add to that, because I do like the negotiation is very important, but that doesn't mean that you stop doing the process behind. So if you can negotiate with the tenant, but you need to still complete the notices.
Absolutely.
Because every notice has a termination period. And if you're not completing them, all you're doing is stalling yourself. So complete the notices, hand the notices to the tenant and say, look, I'm giving you this notice because this is the way that the system works. However, I still want to talk to you about it. Let's try to work it out. Right. And so if it doesn't work out, you still have the ability to go and file that notice with the board.
And then you don't lose the time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing is, definitely if the tenant is not paying, look, like we were just talking about it, and I just wanted to go back to make sure that I answered, is really that you still have to complete the notices, and you need to do them. Like, don't wait. I don't know why people wait. Like, everyone's like, oh, this is my friend. They're not your friend. Like, you can be friendly, but they're not your friend.
No, it's business. That's the other thing too. I find a lot of people that I know who rent their basements, and they're very friendly with their tenant because they're living in the same house. So when I see they're talking about, oh, I really like them and they're really nice and I want to give them a break and I'm not going to raise the rent, I'm like, are you kidding me? Treat it like a business. This is a business. You have to pay your bills. This is what it's a funny thing. It's a funny mindset sometimes. Oh, they're such a good tenant. I go, okay, well, guess what? There's still a rule there. They could switch in a minute to be a bad tenant. They can switch to be, into being a bad tenant. So why? This is the law. The law is set out to protect landlords too, not just the tenants.
Well, why would you, if you went into a store to buy a shirt, right? Yeah. Would you be like to the cashier, sorry, I don't have the money right now, so I'm just going to take it and leave and I'll come back later to pay?
Right.
Is that what you do? Because you like the person or they like you? Is that what you do?
Oh, yeah, we're friends. Oh, yeah,
sure. We're friends. So no worries. I'll come back later. You can't do this. This is, look, I like my tenants. I actually like them. My parents like their tenants. We all like our tenants. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that there is no law. And once you start to cross a boundary of liking it, they use it against you. And look, again, I do represent some tenants, and I see those landlords do the same thing. Oh, this person is my friend.
Sure, there's bad landlords out there too. But the other thing, I think the Ontario government makes landlords, really fight for what they are doing for their business.
Well, because we have deeper pockets.
Right, which is ridiculous. That's not true at all. So in some cases, it's not true. But this is the thing too. Araceli and I both have income properties. I have a short-term rental, and the laws are very, very different too between short-term and long-term rentals. Mm-hmm. And this is something that Samantha and I have talked about before too. And what's a better, scenario? And there is no better. There are issues with short-term rental, and there's issues with long-term rentals too. Yeah. And the kind of apps and the kind, we all know Airbnb and VRBO and all these kinds of platforms to rent your property on. But it's still, the issues are making sure people have insurance, making sure you have the proper insurance, making sure the house is safe for people. Like, there are all these things that you have to, it's the municipality that wants to regulate short-term or long-term rentals, and what do they desire, what do they need from it. So there's so many legal issues that, this is why we do this show, because we want to introduce you to professionals like Samantha. If you're a landlord or a tenant, if you have any issues, you have any questions, this is like, this person, oh my God, she's at your fingertips. Like, this is like huge value. That I love this woman because she's so open and honest. She has a huge team behind her too. If you don't speak to Samantha directly, there are other people that can help you. Dan, oh my God, like like there's so many people that will just, she's very heart-centered, and that's what I like working. Same with Araceli. Like, we all like working with people that we know, like, and trust. And these two ladies, I don't know why I'm like, you know, going on about it, but like, honestly, I really, really appreciate when I met Samantha, I'm like, oh my God, it's like the woman of my dreams. Like, you know, she's here to answer her question. Hey, I'm straight, you know, but if I was, no.
Didn't sound that good.
Oh, I'm so honored.
But anyway, like, this is the thing that we really like working with each other. We have a lot of fun, you know, like, this is the thing. Oh, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself too? We really didn't get to know you other than
about me. Yeah, because I'm always talking about law. So definitely I will tell you more about me. There's a lot of things I do. I'm going to just talk about it from the legal side though, because otherwise we'd be here for a year.
Yeah.
So I actually am an instructor of law as well. So I actually teach the paralegal program at a private career college. I've been doing that for 2 years now. So I also sit as a board of director of the Landlord Self-Help Center. I'm like really into this landlord and tenant thing. And I run a not-for-profit called the York Region Paralegal Network. And we actually are a public-facing organization that does educational seminars to the public. Before COVID, we were actually traveling around York with our community partners, and we were educating at their venues to their audiences. So employers, employees, landlords and tenants. We did human rights, local municipal issues. And so we're always trying to provide free education, because education is really powerful. Absolutely. And we want to make sure we're providing the right education, because like we don't want the Google to take over. So yeah, I'm really about education. I'm huge into that. And it's funny because I was never an educator in my background. I just became one. My mom's actually a professor.
Yeah.
And so that's where I came out of. And I continue to teach and even continue my own career path by getting educated further. So.
Yeah. Oh, and your mom.
That is
cute babies. Well, they're not really babies anymore. They're sort of big babies.
Yes, a mompreneur, let's just say. So definitely all about women and women's rights and making sure that women are connecting and how we can help each other. I don't want to leave the guys out because I love working with guys as well, men. My whole firm actually is men. Like I'm the only female in my firm, so I just want to mention that.
Is that the way that the industry is? There's more men paralegals than women?
You know what? There's actually more female paralegals. It's just our industry, like I'm sure any industry, is where you come into an industry, you're educated, but then if you don't have a background in some sort of business or marketing, you don't know what to do with that education. And that's why I'm so all over educating paralegals, not just the public, because I want to teach them the core foundations, but I also want them, like I've taught them marketing, like I teach the marketing course to them. Yeah, I want them to be able to actually come into the profession and help people.
Yeah. And how do people find them? Like this is the thing too. Whenever I go on, I have my little Facebook groups with realtors, and I'm always asking, well, I haven't asked in a long time after I found you, but I'm like, I need a paralegal. Where can I find a good paralegal? And I get one answer. I get one person's name and that's it. And it's kind of like this funny thing. This is all about marketing. As a paralegal, you say, hey, I don't know when I'm going to need you, but if I know I have a good person, then I'm going to hold on to their name or their information and just keep it in my whatever, address book, like I'm an old lady.
I was going to say Rolodex.
Yeah, my Rolodex, right. So this is the thing that, like, as long as you have that information that you don't forget who you need at the time, like that's what I find that's so important with somebody, like finding a really good, same thing with lawyers, same thing like, with realtors. Can I say that too? Like this is the thing, whenever somebody has a question. Yeah. And this is the thing too, Samantha will call me and say, oh, hey, you know what? I have a question about real estate. Does this sound right? I'm like, well, yes or no. And then we talk about it. Like, this is why we're here. Just, we want to share information. Don't be afraid to ask questions. There's no stupid questions.
Definitely.
Okay, one more question for you before we end the show is, do you have any recommendations or anything like that for tenants and landlords during this time? What should they do?
Yeah. So the key to this time right now is communication, and it's fluid communication. It's communication where you guys guys and gals are trying to work through things and being very upfront and honest with each other so that it can be dealt with. what I'm seeing, and look, I don't blame landlords. I know it's a frustrating time and people are upset and people are selling. I understand, like, I get it. But
Yep.
if we can find a way to have that communication, then maybe things would go smoother, just until you can get a hearing. Because once you get a hearing, they are giving evictions. And if it can be solved without that, then that would be great. But really, it comes down to communication. Yeah,
I
go
want
ahead.
to answer that too. I think that, yeah, absolutely communication. But if you don't have a tenant yet and you're renting out a portion of your house or your apartment, or or some residential part, make sure you have a good lease. I mean, this is the thing that I shake my head all the time. I go, come on, people. The first thing you do is get your ironclad lease, explain it to the tenant, talk to them about it, make them sign it where they need to sign it. That standard lease makes me nuts, and just to go by that and not have attachments or, the certain clauses added to the agreement, which you're allowed to do. This is the thing. If you think, oh, I'm a landlord, I'm just going to do it, and here's my standard lease, not good enough. Like, you really have to protect yourself. And the one thing too about what Samantha was saying, just the communication, there is always other options. You don't have to go straight and narrow. This is it. I have blinders on. This is all like from either side, either as the tenant or the landlord. You have to be flexible a little bit, especially now. Be gentle with one another. We're all going through this together. Absolutely. Landlords are losing money. They need to cover their nut. Because they're losing money, they have to sell. That's just the bank doesn't say, oh, yeah, just pay me another day.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't work that way. So, tenants have to think of the landlord too, to say, hey, listen, this is all I can do right now. Let's have a conversation.
Definitely. Yeah. And also, just so everyone knows, I can tell you a lot of the matters that I've dealt with during COVID, I've actually negotiated. So I actually have, I'm certified in mediation. So I can do mediation within the civil realm, and including the landlord and tenant board. So there are in-house mediators that you can deal with, but if you want to deal with it before you get to the board, right, I can mediate it, I can negotiate it, I can solve it. And I think that's what people don't understand, is that they don't know what paralegals do. And that's what I'm trying to work towards, is saying, hey, you don't always need a lawyer. I love lawyers. I work well with lawyers. We work together, but paralegals can do a lot of these things. And look, paralegals can represent in over 700 boards, tribunals, and commissions in Ontario. I don't know if people know. There's a lot that we can do.
And you know what? To have some access to a paralegal is a lot easier than lawyers. Going through something with a lawyer, it takes days sometimes for them to get back to you, because they have other clients. They have their roster of how many people. They don't care. Honestly, like, I'm sorry to say this, maybe, certain lawyers, but they have their numbers. It's a business for them. They go through, okay, this person needs this right now. It's kind of like, putting Band-Aids on, or just, extending the issue because they don't have time to deal with it. So they'll ask a question. I'm sorry, nothing against lawyers. My own personal experience. They sometimes don't have time to answer you right away, or it's not as important, or you don't think it's so important to ask the lawyer, but then down the road, it is such a very, very important question to ask that you didn't ask because you're like, oh, it's not important. Paralegals are great for stuff like that. And then they will tell you too, you have to go to a lawyer.
Yes.
So don't be afraid of paralegals.
Absolutely.
Very knowledgeable. Yeah. You're my first stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Samantha, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they get a hold of you?
So we have many ways you can get a hold of us. We try to actually make it as easy as possible. Like, we get messages, if you go on Google and just search search sfg.legal, there's actually a chat box right there on Google for us.
Okay, so let's say that for S like Sam.
Yeah, S is in
like
Sam,
Frank.
F is in Frank, G is in George, .legal is our website. So if you just search that in Google, there's actually a chat box. You can chat with us there, and you can get a hold of somebody in our firm. You can call us, you can email us. There's many ways. We're pretty accessible. And the thing that I really like about our firm is that we do respond pretty quick.
Yeah.
So we, usually there's a 48-hour response time, but we try to surpass that customer service and really try to answer as fast as we can. That's our goal. So yeah, if you're looking for us, email us, call us, go through our website, fill out the form, and we'll get to you as soon as we can get to you.
Oh, that's awesome. And I'll make sure that I put all your information in the comment box. So if you want to get a hold of Samantha, please do yourself a favor. If you have a question, just go to her website, go to the chat box, or just send her an email or message, phone call, everything that you can. This is such a wonderful information, especially for landlords. Everybody, we've been getting a lot of questions about what am I going to do here during COVID? And I know that this may not go away for a while. So this, the interaction needs to be dealt with. And I think we all have to adapt accordingly. So great resource, Samantha. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the information. It's awesome. So Colette, do you have any final questions for Samantha before we go?
No, I just, because I know I can call her anytime and chat. And, we honestly, it's hard to say. We always have fun when we talk to each other because, this is the thing when we really connect with people that it goes beyond just business. We're also friends. So it's really nice to see you, even if it's just on Zoom.
Yeah.
And, I really appreciate, and again, there's so many other things that Samantha does, but, start with the paralegal stuff. If you have any questions about anything of what she does, go to the website, take a look. And if you need any other, she can put you in the right direction if we can't. So that's the other thing too. Don't hesitate to reach out to us too. If you have any questions about real estate or, honestly, we love the questions. So keep them coming. We like to answer them. You give us, things to talk about on the show. So if you have a question, I'm sure 20 other people have the same question. So please keep them coming. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
and thank you to the audience too for coming and listening. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much, Samantha. So
bye, everybody.
We will see you later.
Bye, everyone.